Let's start this morning with some singing. We're going to sing hymn 389 in your gray hymnal, and it's your favorite, it's around. So we're going to sing it through twice in unison, and then we will split, and this half of the congregation will sing starting with me, and this half of the congregation will sing starting with Reverend Lydia. And we'll do that twice as well. I invite you to listen and to take in the lyrics and music of this song to help draw you even deeper into our fellowship and what we will be thinking and talking about today. Okay.
Rise.
Rise in body or spirit, it says here.
Or both.
Yes.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Boulder Valley Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. I'm Reverend Lydia Ferrante Roseberry. I'm joined today by Service Associate Paul Gibb and by Covenant Group Co-Coordinator Jean Nuttall, who is on Zoom, and Maggie Corrigan, who's here. Corrigan. I spelled it wrong in here, actually. So, before I go into the welcome, I wanted to give you a little backstory on that song, Gathered Here, because it's become very important to me. It was written by a friend of mine named Phil Porter in the 1980s during the AIDS epidemic. Phil is a gay man, artist, and what do you want to call it? Street corner theologian. Let's call him that. He's a very wise person. And it was a time when there was so much fear about AIDS, and many of his friends were dying, and churches in particular were not welcoming to queer people. And so he was gathering people around him, and he wrote this song. And so I just want to, when we sing that song, to remember that that song for a certain population was literally life-giving, because they could gather with people and have a spiritual connection with one another in a time when there were few places and so much fear around their very bodies. I want to thank Carmen Sandeem and Amy Austin for providing music. We love our Carmen. And also for our tech team, Deborah Mensch-Dixon, Scott Yeomans, and Kathy Partridge on Zoom. And of course, for all of you are welcome here. You are all so welcome here. In all the beauty of languages, cultures, skin tones, shapes and sizes, gifts and challenges that come together in your being, you are welcome here. In all the ways that you experience and express gender, you are welcome here. In the beauty that is who you love and how you love them, you are welcome here. In all the ways you make your living and all the places that you are from, you are welcome here. With all of the traditions that inform your spiritual life, you are welcome here. No matter how long you've been away or if this is your very first time here, you are welcome here. And whether you come with laughter in your heart today or with tears, you are welcome here. You are invited to join us with an open mind, with a loving heart and willing hands. We welcome you all here today. As a congregation, we commit ourselves to being a center for spiritual exploration and justice making, and to anti-racism and anti-oppression work within our own hearts, within this congregation, and beyond. Today, as part of our summer series, we're focusing on the theme of transformation, or love as transformation. And it is one of the words that is the new proposed values for our Unitarian Universalist non-creedal tradition. And it's the idea is that after studying and thinking about these words, we will vote them in, and they will be the replacement of what have been our cherished 8 principles in our congregation. So the Unitarian Universalist Association does this regularly. So it's kind of ironic that the word is transformation, which is about change, and it's about us adapting to change. And even within the bylaws of Unitarian Universalism, we are to be looking at and exploring the context of our beliefs and being willing to change them. The proposed wording that underscores the value of transformation is: we adapt to the changing world. We covenant to collectively transform and grow spiritually and ethically. Openness to change is foundational to our Unitarian and Universalist heritages. Never complete and never perfect. So we'll get more on that as the service progresses. If you are new here, we are really glad you found us and hope that in this community, whether you're here in person or virtually, that you can experience the warmth and love of this congregation. We have many experiences and opportunities during the week for social connection and spiritual growth. Each Sunday is different here, so come back a few times to really get to know us. Those on Zoom can check out the links that are going into the chat right now to help you get connected. And those in person, you can stop by the welcome table after the service, and they'll have information for you for how you can also get connected. Everyone on Zoom is welcome to stay for casual conversation following the service. And if you're here in the room, you are welcome to go to the fellowship hall following the service for coffee and cookies. If you're on Zoom, you can write your name in the chat and say hello to each other through the chat, so you all know who's there. And those of you in person, if you would just turn and say hello to your neighbor, maybe somebody you haven't met before. Oops. If you have a chalice at home, you can light it with me and then write in the chat where your chalice is from. So you would just say chalice lit in and then the name of your town. And I invite everyone to say the words of the chalice lighting along with me. We light this chalice for the warmth of love, the light of truth, and the energy of action. And now I will sing our bowl again and invite it to draw you deeper into the present moment and into the company of this beloved community.
You've become a forest. One day, when you wake up, you will find that you've become a forest. You've grown roots and found strength in them that no one thought you had. You have become stronger and more beautiful, full of life-giving qualities. You have learned to take all the negativity around you and turn it into oxygen for easy breathing. A host of wild creatures live inside you, and you call them stories. A variety of beautiful birds nest inside your mind, and you call them memories. You have become an incredible, self-sustaining thing of epic proportions. And you should be so proud of yourself, of how you have come from the seeds of who you used to be. Today, we invite you during this service on transformation to reflect on your own journey of becoming who you are and how the forest within you nurtures your spiritual growth.
Our next hymn is also in your gray hymnal, number 396. I Know This Rose Will Open, a song about love and transformation and possibility, also in a round. So we'll do the same thing. We'll sing twice together in unison, and then this side will sing with me, and this side will sing with Reverend Lydia. Would you please rise and body your spirit?
I
are getting pretty good at these rounds. Change. Right. One of the great rubs in life. Deep down, each of us knows that life is change. It's actually an immutable natural law. Nothing is static, even from 1 nanosecond to the next. Most change is imperceptible from moment to moment, but the universe is in constant flux. From the way the light comes through these windows to the oxygen molecules that you are breathing in and out without even thinking about it. Change, change, change. Some change is easier to embrace, like a sunny day after a few days of rain. I love that. Others are much harder, like the death of a loved one. And our bodies are geared toward homeostasis. That means they like to maintain stability and predictability for their survival. Our bodies want about this much change. I just had a blood test, and you get it so quickly now, and it had this this is green right in here. This is good. Anything outside of that? No, right? Every system in our body, from our kidneys to the cells in our bone marrow, orient themselves towards maintaining a predictable internal state in the midst of this constantly changing external stimuli. Our minds, too, gear towards predictability, especially after we reach a certain age, let's say. So here we are in these living, breathing, walking, running, talking, singing, cooking, gardening, tending, love-making beings, these bodies that we have that are constantly changing and constantly trying not to change too much. What a dynamic tension we live in every single second of our lives. Sometimes we know we need change. Things out there are out of balance in harmful ways, in our own beings and in society as a whole. I think we're seeing that societally for sure right now. And pain is the communicator. Physical pain, psychic pain that turns into physical pain that turns into psychic pain, and the upheaval and violence in our society. Discomfort is our red flag that change is needed. A few weeks ago, we shared the General Assembly Sunday service. I don't know how many of you were able to see it. It was a lovely service, and my colleague, the Reverend Manish Mishra Marzetti, told a story about a very painful personal moment. And it happened after he hadn't received the call to a congregation that he put his whole heart into. He was ready to make a big change in his life, and it didn't happen. He had anticipated a change that was not to be, and had to deal with the truth of that fact. He felt lost, and he went to the mountains. And he was called back into a Hindu tradition of his childhood religion, and he talked with God on a mountaintop, imploring the universe to take his pain away. Have you ever had one of those moments where in your own discomfort you beseech whatever it is you believe in, and maybe things you no longer believe in, to make the changes necessary to continue on? I know I have. His story brought me back to one of the very first sermons I wrote that I deeply remember, and I called it Desperately Seeking Grace. I don't even remember the story in that sermon. It was written a couple decades ago, but I do remember the feeling state. That inner discomfort, that yearning for something to shift, something to change, a yearning for connection with what? Ultimately, a connection with my divine self, which I believe is connected to the sacred pulse of the universe. Now, Reverend Manish got what he needed from his mountaintop experience, a new understanding of his own desires, his needs, his need for love and connection, which is perhaps the root of many of our own human desires, love, connection. But in that sermon I wrote 20 years ago, I remember that I didn't get that zap of transformation as much as I longed for it. And I had to look elsewhere for the transformation I needed at that very stuck time in my life. Those mountaintop experiences are really great when you get them, but they're so damn unpredictable. And you just can't will them into being. More often, wanted change or transformation happens in an almost imperceptible way. The way the light is slowly changing in this room as the sunlight passes through the window. The Irish poet John O'Donoghue expresses it this way in his poem called For a New Beginning. In the out-of-the-way places of the heart, where your thoughts never think to wander, this beginning has been quietly forming, waiting until you were ready to emerge. For a long time, it has watched your desire, feeling the emptiness growing inside of you, noticing how you willed yourself on, still unable to leave what you had outgrown. It watched you play with the seduction of safety and the gray promises that sameness whispered, heard the waves of turmoil rise and relent, wondered if you would always live like this. Then the delight, when your courage kindled and you stepped out onto new ground, your eyes young again with energy and dream, a path of plenitude opening before you. Though your destination is not yet clear, you can trust the promise of this opening. Unfurl yourself into the grace of beginning that is at one with your life's desire. Awaken your spirit to adventure. Hold nothing back. Learn to find ease in risk. Soon you'll be home in a new rhythm, for your soul senses the world that awaits you. Now, being somewhat of a mystic myself, that language really speaks to me. But for the scientists who like to know things up here, they have described the stages of change this way. Pre-contemplation, contemplation, preparation, determination, that's one, action, willpower, and maintenance, so 5 stages. In pre-contemplation of change, we've not even acknowledged that we want to change, that there's anything stirring in us. We're going along in life using our best distractors to ignore what's not working. We're living in a hazy valley of our own discontent. In contemplation, there is an acknowledgement somewhere that a shift is needed, but we're not yet ready, not even sure we want it, or lacking the confidence to make the change that's needed. You see the mountain up ahead. but aren't really sure you can climb it, or even if you want to explore that vista. You're kind of wondering if you're afraid of heights. In preparation and determination, the third stage, you're getting ready for change. You're gathering information about your options. It's like, I think I can. It's like you begin slowly packing your backpack, just in case you decide to go for a little stroll up the mountain, thinking carefully, very carefully, about what you'll need. Sometimes this is the analysis paralysis moment of change. In action willpower, the changing behavior happens. This is the do it phase. You start your trek, you enlist others to refill your water and your supplies and to cheer you on as you make this new journey. And the final phase of change is maintaining the behavior change, successfully avoiding temptations, finding a new status quo, and engaging with your support network. At this stage, you've climbed up a few vista points, you realize you can handle it, you look back at the hazy valley below and see that the journey was worthwhile. And you know that you have companionship along the way. Even though it's hard at times, you don't turn back because you have accomplished so much. My own experience tells me that most transformation happens this way. As much as we would want those zap, epiphany, mountaintop experiences that will automatically change us and relieve us of the journey, it is actually the journey that creates the transformation. Step by step, moment by moment, with sometimes imperceptible changes that invite an initial act of will that over time becomes a way of life and a better life. I also know that being the social beings that we are, we can't make these changes alone. And honestly, that's one of the reasons I love congregations. We help each other to create positive change. We help each other to adapt to the changing world. And we help each other resist those changes that bring more pain. We journey with each other up the mountain and celebrate the vistas that we see together. Willingness to change requires a willingness to risk and a certain amount of discipline. Now, no Unitarian Universalist would like to be called a disciple, but I would like to suggest that perhaps discipline and discipleship and covenant might be kind of connected, because we do call ourselves a covenantal tradition. We covenant with one another. We join together to be on this journey together for the possibility of transformation. We are asked to show up for ourselves and for others again and again, whether the terrain is smooth or rocky, and on sunny days and in tempests. We, in the congregation, are a training ground, a practice site for the inevitability of change. And one of the main ways we do this, it happens on Sunday, yes, when we're all here together, but one of the main ways we do this is through our small groups. We have lots and lots of small group opportunities. We have service-oriented groups, like being on the hospitality team or the grounds team, where folks may not directly share in structured ways, but we're building those relationships that strengthen us. We have affinity groups where folks come together with a particular identity or a passion, like hiking groups or parent-focused groups, or the senior seekers. We have intergenerational opportunities for play, which should never be discounted as frivolous. And that happens within our model of our School of the Spirit. And we have covenant groups. In these groups, folks covenant. They make a commitment, a disciplined choice to be with one another over an extended period of time, usually about 10 to 12 months, and in a space of deep listening and deep sharing. Feeling heard and valued and having the opportunity to be witnessed as you listen to yourself, that is deeply transformational. That is where that voice that you had never wanted to pay attention to can kind of creep up on you and help you make the changes that you need to change. Covenant groups are sneaky deep. As we explore our lives in mutually supportive ways, listening with listening bodies surrounding us, we are enabled to tell the truth about our own lives. And we often begin whatever journey of change may be needed for ourselves from that place of deep listening. And so often, we only understand that we've been transformed by looking backwards to where we've been. I found that with my own experience in congregational life. I made a commitment to come regularly, I got involved, I got engaged, and then it was looking back a few years later that I realized what it had done. Look what it did to me. Good grief. So engagement, willingness, risk, these are the essentials for transformation so that one day you too can look back and see that you have grown roots and found strength in them that no one thought you had. And that you too have become stronger and more beautiful, full of life-giving qualities. And you too can look back at how far you have come from the seeds of who you used to be. This is our gift to one another as we live in an ever-changing world and learn to grow and to love in covenantal community. May it be so.
Although I spent my teenage years being very active in the Unitarian Church I attended, after I graduated from high school, I did not attend a congregation of any kind for the next 16 years, a time period when I was a student and then an assistant professor. It wasn't until I was teaching at a small college in Nebraska, and my wife Mary and I had 2 children, that we decided we needed to have some kind of liberal religion in our lives. So we joined the Lincoln, Nebraska Unitarian Church. Very soon after we started attending, Mary joined several committees and groups and suddenly had a number of friends. I thought I was too busy with my teaching job, which was often taking up 10 or more hours a day, and that I didn't really have time for anything like that. But when I entered the church each Sunday and someone would greet me and say something like, "Hi, I'm Joe. What's your name?" And I would say my name and they'd say, "Great to have you with us," and then walk off and talk to someone else. I felt totally unconnected. But after a number of months of this, I made a big decision. I decided I would become active in the congregation in whatever way I could, committees and small groups. It was worth losing maybe an additional hour or 2 of sleep a few days a week. So I became active, and lo and behold, suddenly I had all sorts of friends. And I learned so much more about other people. So many people who had previously walked past me in silence were now striking up real conversations. And so many of them turned out to be wonderful, fascinating people. People from whom I had something to learn, and who could probably learn something from me. People who were both perfect and imperfect in so many ways, just as I was. Some of those people even came to visit us after we moved to Colorado. I've been in a whole host of groups ever since, for over 35 years now. Here at the fellowship, I've been in the choir and in the service associates group, both of which I've totally loved. But it's in the small groups that there is so much more time to get to know people, and to do so in an uplifting and often spiritually meaningful way. And here at the ship are many more small groups than were available at any of the other congregations I've attended. I strongly recommend to all of you that you explore such a path. You might just get to know other people better. You might even get to know yourself a little better. Each week, we remind ourselves of the abundance of our lives and this community by giving half of our plate away to those organizations that share our values. Today, the half plate is for the East County Housing Opportunity Coalition, ECHO, E-C-H-O. You can text your donation at the number on the screen, and I'd encourage you to enter that number now, since we'll be showing you something else on the screen during the offertory music. If you are at the fellowship today, you can also place a donation in the offering plate as it passes. ECHO works for housing that creates a diverse, affordable community. ECHO's mission is to inform, educate, and train residents, commuters, and policymakers in East Boulder County on affordable housing needs, local policies and projects, on the impacts of local planning decisions, and on ways to advocate effectively for housing affordability in eastern Boulder County. ECHO has been in existence for only 3 years, but its impact has been mighty. You can find out more about ECHO and about upcoming opportunities for advocacy at echocolorado.com. As Carmen plays our offertory music, you will see on the screen quotes from some of our members about their covenant groups. Please give generously, as you so often do.
For the work of this fellowship and the work of East County Housing Organizations, we dedicate our efforts and our offerings. This is a time in our service for our communal connecting, where the whole community is invited into a time of sharing our joys and concerns. If you're on Zoom and you'd like to share a joy or a concern, please type it into the chat window, sending it to everyone, and then I will read it afterwards as Paul puts some stones in our sacred water on your behalf. If you're here in the sanctuary today, you can feel free to come forward, and after right there, and share your joy or concern. You can also always come up in silence if you'd like. And wherever you are, tell us your name and where you live. Thank you.